guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. Welcome. This is technically, I guess, our fifth episode of doing this kind of format, but this is our first episode of this new series that we're doing, right? Which is now what we call History, Drink, Repeat. Basically, as you can tell, I am not drunk right now. I'm loopy. I think I'm just silly. I'm a silly bird. So, like, I'm definitely that. But, I know I drink. I do have a cocktail that I did create. This is my Manhattan.
Someone said drink in chat, so we all have to take a drink.
Yeah, I do the drink command. I do have a Manhattan I created. It's a little bit on the red tint, which was why I did it, the red tint. It's actually quite delicious, and I'm very proud of it.
And I have my classic whiskey glass, which is not changed since the very first time we've started streaming. You're welcome, chat.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Again, I'm Janelle, Piva Colada. This is John. Goes by Angelus.
Jealous 000. What's up, everyone?
So thank you. This is the beginning of, first we're going to do 3 episodes for what I'm calling the spooky series, right? The October series to celebrate Halloween. Because since we're in quarantine, especially here still in California, we don't have haunted houses. We can't really do in LA. We're just kind of, there's so much we just can't do. Oh, I know. Can we get a little bit more, Angelus? Is he a little low?
Oh, am I a little low?
Because I can turn them up.
Loud.
His voice is so loud. I thought originally I turned down the volume in my OBS because he's booming, right? He booms with his voice. So
I have a lot of projection. I'm a trained thespian.
Does it sound better, Odin? Does his voice sound better? I love all the feedback we can get. So depending on how we sound, the voices, how loud the music is, anything to help with a better stream for you is what matters the most. He does project, right?
I do project.
He projects. So again, this is the first episode of our Halloween series. So today we're going to be talking about St. Louis horror attractions because I am from St. Louis. That's where I spent pretty much my entire teen years and most of my other younger years, and I love it. So I'm really excited to talk about it. We're going to be talking about the Lemp Mansion, which is a really famous haunted attraction, and then we're also going to talk about the 1949 exorcism that allegedly went down, right, in St. Louis as well. So 2 very spectacular old school stories that very much, I know. So behind me actually is the Lemp Mansion. It's an old school one, as you can tell by this old school automobile behind me, and also these gentlemen wearing old school garb, right? So I had the Lemp Mansion as my first background, and I will change it when I talk about the exorcism, because you gotta stay with the theme. So it is a 2. You get kind of a double feature, right? Today we have a 2 topic. I usually stick to 1, but I thought today let's do 2. Hi, Daddy. What's up? We got Piva Man.
Welcome. and I'm going to be sharing some ghost stories from the Lit Mansion, and just some interesting, weird occurrences regarding the actual Exorcist film, which the movie, of course, was based on the story that Piva Colada is going to be talking about today. So, yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of the format difference. So now I won't be as drunk, but who knows as we go, right? And John makes me drink, and people are like, I drink, right? Or exclamation drink. Also, John's going to be telling some stories as well. So he's done some of his own research. So it's going to be more collaborative, right? So not so much me slurring and trying to tell you a fun history story. So I'm excited. So I do want to do this in a nice, timely manner. I always say let's do this in an hour. Now it's already 8:15 almost, right? So
I would like the chat to tell us at the very end if they prefer more drunk Piva Colada or less drunk Piva Colada.
No, I can't handle it. This body can't handle no more, okay? I know I look super young. I'm still young, but I was too drunk. I was too drunk before. It was too much for me. No more tips of history. Now we're doing history, drink, repeat. That's what we're doing.
Much more dignified.
Much more dignified, right? Having a master's, I could be like, I don't need to be drunk to talk about history. All right, so let's get started because I know you're here for the good, juicy, spooky, interesting stories, right? So again, I am from St. Louis. This is something that I grew up with. It was very much part of the drinking, yes. It was very much part of my childhood, and it's something that I love, right? It's very much a part of me, and I love Halloween. My father very much made me a Halloween baby, I guess you could say. Growing up watching horror films, he also built haunted houses when I was younger, so it's just very much a part of me, and this is my favorite time of year. So I'm very excited to kind of share these stories and celebrate with all of you. Okay, so let's get started. So the first one we're going to be talking about is the hauntings at Lemp Mansion. So in order to talk about why this place is considered haunted, or even what people have seen or experienced being at the Lemp Mansion, we first need to talk about the family, right? The Lemp family. They are pretty much St. Louis royalty, as we would say it. So basically, John Adam Lemp, he's the head of it. He goes by Adam, by the way. His name's like John Adam or Johann because he's from Germany. But my eyes, you see how my eyes have this weird light reflection off of them, you guys?
It's
I
creepy.
look kind of ghost-like and creepy.
Yeah.
I can't.
Dead.
It's like, dude, what's going on? So it's very ghostly, isn't it? So, wow, that freaks me out already. Watch me cry and scream. Okay, so so Adam Lemp, he goes by Adam. So when I talk about him, I'll be using the name Adam. So he arrives in St. Louis in around 1838, and he's from Germany. He's a strapping young man seeking his fortune. He starts off as a grocer, right? Someone who works at a grocery store. He sells some really great items, but he sells something very particular. He sells something very special, something that his other competitors do not have. And I wanted to know, what do you guys think that he sells that no one else does?
I mean, given the time, I assume vibrators.
Oh, come on, John.
Not. It was a guess.
It was a guess, right? So
go ahead. Okay. He sells.
if he has some things that no one else has. I like it.
I'm gonna have to go with medical tools for 500 Alex. What are medical tools?
He's from Germany. I like where you're going with this, though. He's from Germany, so he sells beer. Booze, right? Yes. He sells beer. He actually sells lager, right? Because he's from Germany. So he sells lager, and none of his competitors do. So he becomes extremely popular. So actually, when he was back in Germany, his poppy, taught him how to brew. So he brought that skill with him to America, specifically to St. Louis, and he's making beer, and he's selling it, and he's very popular for it. He's so popular, and it's in such high demand, he actually ditches the grocer gig, and he becomes a full-time brewer, right? Something super cool about St. Louis that probably the majority of you don't know, and if you live in St. Louis, you might know, is that actually St. Louis was built, right, on this natural cave system. So there was actually all these tunnels and stuff, right, underneath St. Louis. And they were used for all sorts of things, right? They were used for entertainment. They were like movie theaters and bowling alleys and parties. But they were also used for like runaway slaves, right, back during the 1800s. And it was also very much used for brewing. So it was multi-purpose, right? Because it's a cave, so it's perfect for refrigeration, right? It's a really good environment. It's cool, it's cold, so it's where people can keep their beer and also for brewing. It was just
or dead bodies.
Bodies. I don't know, maybe, right? I don't know, right? We talked about booze. Take a small sip.
I'll take lots of sips.
My beautiful Manhattan. Oh gosh, it's so good. Who needs a bar? Gosh.
Please use the drink command for future drinks, so everyone gets to enjoy with us.
A drink of choice. It could be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. It's okay, whatever you prefer. So again, because of these natural caves, right, that are underneath St. Louis and this natural refrigeration system, it actually is going to draw a lot of brewers to St. Louis. They're going to flock there, and that's why brewing in St. Louis has become really popular. And that's when the Budweiser family is going to come to St. Louis, and that's why Budweiser is a very popular beer today, right? It's like I think it's number 1 or 2. What's top 3?
It's up there.
It's up there, right? So it's very, very popular. So the Budweiser family won't come until like a few years later. So the Lemp family is like the first brewery family in St. Louis, and then others will come about. So then in 1840, Adam starts a modest brewery, right? And it's a saloon, and it's called Western Brewery, because right, remember, St. Louis is the gateway to the West. It's where the arch is. It's this Western expansion, and thus, so with Adam's new brewery, right, Western Brewery, thus begins the St. Louis beer industry. It was a huge success, right? It pretty much making the Lemp name a household name. They become local royalty due to this. And it makes Lemp himself a millionaire. He becomes extremely rich, right, off of selling his beer. And also a lot of Germans move to St. Louis, so that also helps kind of boost that whole sales because people are loving, it's also beer, right?
I'm excited.
Yeah. So when Adam dies, he dies naturally. He passes his very successful business to his son, William J. Lemp. William transforms the business. By the way, I am going to be slacking clearly already. I'm so frazzled. So here's Adam. So this was Adam Lemp. By the way, this is our very dignified German gentleman who lives the American dream, right?
Look
Makes
at
his
that
fortune.
mustache.
I know, it is
I'm
sick.
jealous.
So this is Adam. So Adam passes away. He makes a fortune, right? He passes his business on to his son. So this is William. This is William J. Lemp. Where am I? So William actually is going to take the business and he's going to rename it to the William J. Lemp Brewing Company. In 1864, he moves this from this modest location to a giant factory, right? It's going to take up like 5 blocks. It's huge. So I actually have a really great picture of kind of what's remaining of the Lemp factory that you can still go see today. So this is one of the main building structures. A lot of it has either deteriorated or it's been turned into something else. So, but this is today. So but you can tell how big, right? From a small brewery to this massive industrial brewery. Right?
Can I still get Limp beer? Do they still produce beer, or no? That's relic of
the
ghost town.
No, unfortunately, it will die out. We'll get to that and what happens. There's actually a huge mystery on why Limp beer doesn't thrive when things like Budweiser will, right?
Ghost. It's ghost.
Oh, it's ghost, right?
It's the only solution.
So what's going on? So actually, the Limp Brewery is actually down the street from Budweiser Brewery. They're very close together. If you ever go to St. Louis or if you live there, they're actually only a few blocks away. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out if my friend Tess is working. She works at the Venice Cafe, which is also down the street. It's a really cool area, so I love it over there. So this is the Limp Brewery. So William, he marries, right? He marries a woman named Julia, and what they do at this time. So they're pretty rich. They decide to buy the Lemp Mansion, right? And that's also down the street from the Lemp Brewery. It's actually very close to it. And it's to the new brewery location. I actually read, I believe the mansion was built by Julia's father. And so it's actually Mr. Lemp's father-in-law who built the mansion, and then he procured it, right? So that was around the 1860s. It was gorgeous. So the mansion behind me here is the Lemp Mansion, and it was actually a 33-room mansion. It was huge. However, it wasn't grand enough, right, for this local royalty family. So they actually started doing a ton of renovations to it. They added an auditorium. They added, marble and art everywhere. They actually have exotic plants. They added a swimming pool. There's an elevator or a grand staircase. It's just absolutely gorgeous, right? It's supposed to really amplify the Victorian style of the time, right? And to really be grand, because they were such a big family, right? And they were millionaires, so they wanted to reflect that, right? So they already took a gorgeous mansion and then they renovated it to be even grander, right? So it also was where he had his office for the brewery and things like that. So it's crazy. It's huge. It's actually also where they're going to house their tons of kids that they're about to have. They actually are going to have around, they have 9 kids, but 1 dies in infancy. So we have 8 kids we're going to be talking about today and what happens to them. So another cool feature about the mansion, before I move on to tell you more about the family, is that the underground tunnels actually lead straight to the brewery as well. So you can get to the brewery underground. It's blocked today, but it was really cool that they were connected and you can go underground to get to the brewery. So pretty nifty place, let me tell you.
Yeah, the Hearst Castle does agree.
Yeah, yeah. That's another insanely cool place too. There's so many great mansions out there, right? So William, he's popping out kids, right? He's growing the business. He's making a ton of money. His eldest son, William Jr., who's called Billy, right? So we have William Jr., who's the eldest, Billy. He hopes to take over the family business. He's the eldest after all. He's attending SLU, St. Louis University. He's in the brewery program. He's gearing up, right, to take over the business. And it seems about why wouldn't he? He's the oldest. But actually, Adam, his father, wants to pass everything on to his 4th son, Fred. Let's just say Fred, right? We'll be cash, right? So
Freddie. I like Freddie better.
Freddie, right? So
Freddie.
He must have seen something in Freddie, right? He must have saw himself in him. I'm not quite sure why he chose Fred to take on the business. But so Fred is all geared up to go, right? He's training, he's getting ready, but then he falls ill. And not long after, he actually passes away. And because of this death, so honestly, there's actually this crazy thing. So there's one account says that he died of heart failure, right? He had underlying health conditions. and he passed away because of heart failure. But I also read another source that says it was mysterious circumstances. I don't know if that's just like to create something out of it, but it's kind of interesting that there are two sources, one saying that he died from heart failure while the other one was like mysterious, right? Which we could get into that because it's like, why Fred when you have other sons who are older than him who are training, right? So whatever the case may be, William, though, loses his favorite son, right? William really wanted to pass this business on to his son Fred. He really loved him. It was his favorite, and he dies. And
He shouldn't have died. It's his own damn fault.
If he had heart failure, it's not his fault. It's also like late 1800s, right? So he loses it, and he becomes completely broken. He becomes despondent. He actually becomes very reclusive after it. So Billy becomes VP. He's holding down the fort while his father is just slowly deteriorating, right? And then a few years later, William, his best friend passes away, and his best friend was Fred Pabst, who's the guy who found Pabst Brewing.
Oh, not inventor of the Pabst smear?
Oh, you funny friend. So he actually, he passes away. And because when his best friend Fred Pabst passes away, that was like the final straw for William, right? And so on the morning of February 13th, 1904, which is the year of the St. Louis World's Fair, a servant in the mansion hears a muffled pop come from the master's bedroom. She summons his sons, right? So like William and all of them, who had to physically break down a locked door, right? So the bedroom door was locked, so William had locked it. They had to physically break it down, and when they entered, they found their father dead with a gunshot in his right temple, in bed. His grief was just too much for him to bear, and he actually took his own life. I actually wanted to show you guys the master bedroom. So this is the master bedroom.
So while you show that master bedroom, so as I was doing research on ghost stories for this event, there's a lot of different pictures where people take, if there's a mirror or a window, they get streaks across their screen, and it kind of looks reminiscent, this is where they think it's coming from someone shooting a bullet in that same streak pattern of a bullet.
It's freaky. So
creepy. Continue on. Sorry.
No. But also, so here William, right? He kills himself in his bedroom, which is just tragic because he couldn't deal with the grief of his son and then his friend, and it was just too much for him. A year later, Julia, his wife, actually gets diagnosed with cancer, and then in 1906, she passes away in that bedroom as well. So, which is wild. So both parents die in this master bedroom, which is it's crazy. So when William shoots himself, this will be the first of the 4 fatal gunshots in this sad tale of the St. Louis First Beer Dynasty. Not to give you too many spoiler alerts on that one. So with Fred and now Will Sr. gone, Billy takes over the business. However, let's get a picture of Billy up here, shall we? Here's Billy. So Billy takes over the business. However, he's not known to be a very nice guy, actually. He's a pretty big drinker. He likes to party. He likes women. He's married, by the way, with a kid. He just likes to have a good time. He's also known to not be very kind, like I said. He's local royalty. He's Bad Boy Billy. He marries Lillian, who's also...
Wait. He's probably a jerk, but Bad Boy Billy is a sick, name. That's cool. Hey, what's up, Bad Boy Billy? That's awesome. Come on. I mean, give him that, at least.
Oh,
He's a scoundrel, but with a really cool nomiker.
Yeah.
So...
So Billy actually marries another another rich family. He marries this woman named Lillian. She's known as the Lavender Lady because she likes to wear lavender. I mean, everything she owns is lavender. And they have a son together. They have William Jr. The third, basically. So I call him Will 3, right? However, his wild ways and his temper were not cutting it for Lillian. It was not flying. She actually decides she files for divorce because of how cruel he is. And I was trying to look up this story. Of course I toured the mansion when I was younger, and it's been quite some time because I haven't been a teenager, right, for quite a long time. But I have one of these weird memories. When I took the tour of the Lemp Mansion in my teen years, I remember the tour guy stating that Billy used to sleep with a gun under his pillow, pointing at his wife. And again, this is something I remember. I couldn't find it. I tried searching for the story to legitimize it. Maybe the tour guide was trying to make it sensational. I'm not sure. But it does fall in line, like, with this idea, right? He was known to be very controlling. He was very jealous, kind of a gentleman. He was a very controlling person. And so that story, in some ways, goes along with it, right? Like, he's always threatening his wife. And so, I don't know. And also, I remember, like, he would give her her allowance, and that if she didn't spend it, he wouldn't give her any more money. So she was forced to spend money every day. So
the U.S. government works too. So I mean, he was just ahead of the times.
So it's just like one of those things where it's like he's really jealous, right? And he's just very controlling. And she couldn't have it. It was actually a very nasty divorce. It was like in the papers because remember they're royalty, right? They're local names, like people know who they are. It's like something. There's like political cartoons of it you can find. It was all over the papers. It was a big deal, right? In the end, she actually wins. Like she gets the divorce. She also gets a lot of money, right? And she wins full custody of their son, Will 3, right?
But Bad Boy Billy doesn't care. I mean, he's Bad Boy Billy.
I don't know. He is a sensitive person. So things are moving along, right?
Wait, that guy is a sensitive person with that face?
So here we go. So things are moving along, right? And then Prohibition happens, right? So breweries shut down. But that wasn't the only thing that happens in 1920. So the first thing that happened, right, Prohibition, no more alcohol is allowed to be sold. It's banned. Brewery is shut down in 1920. But that's not the only thing that's going to go down. So remember, there are 8 limp kids, right? There are a lot of them. Fred is already gone. Billy's in charge. The youngest of the limp kids, Elsa, so the youngest daughter, right? Elsa is the wealthiest heiress in St. Louis. She has this very interesting love life, though. She divorces her husband, but then she remarries him at some point later. I don't know. It's like one of those situations. But when she remarries her ex-husband, 11 days after the marriage, she actually commits suicide, right? She shoots herself in the head as well. She does this at her own home, by the way. There's like stories, people like to say that she killed herself in the mansion. She didn't. She did this at her own home. She does have her own bedroom, right, at the mansion, which you can go rent. You can rent a room and stay there today. You can have, there's dinner parties there. You can go there. It's a full restaurant. We'll get into that in a second. But you can sleep in Elsa's old room. But she actually didn't die in the mansion. But she went out like her dad, right? She committed suicide.
Wait, with a gun too?
With a gun.
Pop,
Correct.
pop, pop.
Pop, pop, pop. So she actually commits suicide. She's the wealthiest heiress in St. Louis. But she's unhappy, or she remarried her ex-husband, but maybe she didn't really want to. I mean, who knows, right? It's just that, it's spooky. It's like, why did that go down? So, where was I at?
We have to, wait, before, sorry. Someone said take a drink.
Oh,
so
it's a little sip time, right?
You're not keeping up. Can't see.
I have stories to get through, John.
I know, but drinking is part of we're history, then we're drinking, and then we're repeating the history that we...
So actually, I found this really interesting thing. So I got my sources, right? Of course, I researched from the Missouri Historical Society. I also got information from the Lemp Mansion website, and I read a couple of news articles as well. And one of the news articles I read, so I'm not sure if it's accurate, but I thought it was a really interesting statement. So when actually Billy finds out that his sister has committed suicide, he actually blurts out, "That's the Lemp family for you." It's like, what does that mean, right? So that's...
That boy Billy, what are you doing?
So yeah, so
not cool.
Prohibition's causing a lot of problems, right? And in the June of 1922, so 2 years after Prohibition passed, Billy actually has to sell the brewery, and he sells it for a pittance, right? He sells it super cheap. It's worth like millions of dollars, and he sells it for barely any money. And this is actually, doing this is going to make him feel like a failure, right? He's going to go into a deep depression over it. And that same year, so that was in June, he sells it, and then in December of 1922, Billy is sitting at his desk in his office at the first floor of the mansion. I believe if you walk in through the entrance, it's to the left. He actually decides to shoot himself in the heart, and he dies later that day.
Dies of a broken heart.
So he
I know
died
that
of a
feeling.
broken heart. I know. So the idea of shooting yourself in the heart is so like that's so intense.
You
So
don't even know if it's gonna be instant. I mean, at least like pop
well, he
in the
didn't
head.
die.
Like,
He didn't die instantly. He died later in
yeah.
the day. Oh, thank you for the follow, Pink. So it's just like one of those things where it's like here his father commits suicide, right? His mother dies of cancer in the house, and now Billy, right, kills himself in the house, as well, just like his father. He shoots himself. So his sister does it, and now he does it.
So we're up to 3 people who have killed themselves currently with a
Correct,
gun.
in the Lemp family. So actually, when Billy's son, Will 3, I like to call him, when William Lemp III finds out that his father has killed himself, he also has something to say, right? So when William finds out, he actually says, he's like, you knew I knew it, I was afraid this was coming. So like, he was afraid that his father was going to do this one day as well, just like his grandfather. So I thought that was a really interesting thing as well.
It's very interesting.
So it's like, what does that mean? So remember, William III, at this point, he's actually grown up. He's a young man. He's no longer a kid. He is the one that's going to inherit the business. And he tries to bring the brewery back after prohibition is repealed. He tries to revive it. And unfortunately, it's very short-lived. The Lemp Brewery doesn't make a comeback. It doesn't bounce back. And he loses the family business. So that's why we don't drink Lemp beer today, right? Because it actually died out. And it's actually one of the biggest mercantile mysteries. Like, why didn't it? I don't have a picture of William III. I wish there was. So, I really wish there was.
He looked like a carbon copy version of William II.
I only got a handful of pictures. I do apologize. Google it. You have the internet at your fingertips, right? So here we go. So William, right? He loses the family. So William III, right? Loses the family business. He also loses his estate that he was living at with his wife. So he has to move out, and he moves back. He moves into the mansion. His wife then leaves him and has a nasty divorce as well, just like his parents did. It was nasty. And he's quite sad. So here he loses the business. He loses his wife. He loses his house. I mean, he's living in this giant, beautiful mansion. I don't see the problem with that. But he himself, right, he ended up actually dying at a very young age of 42 of heart failure in the mansion as well. So he dies in the mansion.
Wait, so 2 dies of heart failure. Technically 3, because someone got shot in the heart, and that's a failure of the heart working. So I'm gonna count that as 3, right?
You can. So now we've had Will Sr., Julia, Will Jr., and William Jr. III. They have all died in the mansion so far. A few years go by. In 1922, Charles, he's the third son, right? Charles decides to move into the mansion with his dog. He is known to not be a very nice guy. He's pretty standoffish. He's also kind of strange. A few years after, so like in 1941, this is actually a really interesting story that I came across. In 1941, Charles sends a letter, right, to a local funeral home, giving them explicit instructions in the event of his death. He requests that his body not be bathed or changed prior of being cremated, right? He wanted no funeral service or published obituary. That's a little strange, right? He just sends this letter to the funeral home. He's like, "This is what I want. Do not bathe me. Don't have a funeral."
Oh, cheers, really quick.
So, yes, cheers. So that gives you an idea how much standoff he is. Apparently, he doesn't like to do anything either. He doesn't like to throw parties.
That is really weird. I mean, did he just stay in the mansion and just
he lived there with his dog.
Get out?
He lived with his dog.
But like
he just stayed there. So 8 years later, Charles, this is really sad. I'm really sorry. I hope this doesn't traumatize anyone. He shoots his dog, and then he shoots himself in the mansion.
Why did the dog have to die?
I think he wanted to take him with him. He didn't want to go alone, I guess. So now Charles, the third son, he is gone. He kills himself in the mansion. And he's actually the last Lemp to occupy the home. No one of the family's going to live in that house after that. They are done with the mansion, right? It's over. So we actually have... everyone's passed besides 3 of the Lemp kids, right? So we have Anna. She's the eldest. She goes and lives her own life. Actually, her son Charles, he actually was running the business for a little bit. He was bought out, though, by Billy, I believe. And then there was Hilda, the second daughter, she actually married the Pabst family, so she went and had a nice life. And then there was Edwin. He was the quirky son. He's like, I believe Edwin was the one that loved animals, and he was a little strange. He actually built a mansion out in Kirkwood, which is St. Louis County, and he just like ditched his family, right? He was like, bye-bye, I'm not going to be with this drama. So
Edwin,
Edwin...
13 wants you to know that, remember that Chu, I don't know how to pronounce that, moved into Edwin Lemp's country home.
So that's interesting. Okay, so like, I think, Dad, maybe you can help me with this one. Didn't the Matushas live in Edwin's mansion in Kirkwood?
Matusha.
I know. So we had friends. My dad tells me funny stories. Sometimes I don't know if they're true or not. We had these friends, right, that were very wealthy, and they lived in a mansion in Kirkwood on top of a hill. And I was told that was Edwin's mansion, because in the middle of the mansion were these pits, you know, that were like what was filled with dirt, where you'd keep animals and stuff inside the mansion. I don't know, but if that was Edwin's mansion, I've been there and I've slept there, and it was fine. We had Halloween parties there, yeah, back in the day. So Edwin pieced out, right? Lemp is massive, yes it is. It's a big family and it's very rooted. So now the family's gone, right? The ones that were involved with the brewery, the ones that lived in the mansion, they're gone. Everyone else went off to do their own thing, right? Yes, see? Yeah, Dad, see? I've been to Edwin's personal mansion. No big deal. Don't be so jealous, everyone. No. So that's the cool thing about living in St. Louis. So it's a small but big city, but small. So the family's gone. The brewery is closed. So what now, right? The mansion. What's going to happen to it? It actually becomes a boarding house for quite some time, but then it becomes completely neglected. Oh, hey, Nat, what's up? So it becomes completely neglected and starts to fall in despair. Once extremely magnificent, right? The beacon, like the peak of Victorian decor in St. Louis royalty, is now just crumbling and falling apart. I know you turned that Edwin's mansion to a house. It's so cool. I'm getting things late, by the way, so if I see your comment like a minute after, I do apologize. So what happens, right? So as it's falling in despair, in 1975, it is actually saved by the Pointer family, who convert it, right? They decide to re-renovate it, and they're going to convert it into a restaurant. So the Pointer family moves in. So we just talked about the tragedy, right? We've learned about the Lemp family, about the children, and kind of what happened and why it fell apart. One thing that was so great, right, at the top of its game, and how it just dissolves. Right? Still remembered today because the mansion's been preserved, and of course the Lemp Brewery, although in despair, you can go see it. There's actually a haunted house they built in the Lemp Brewery basement, which is the coolest thing ever. If you go there for Halloween, you guys, you have to do the haunted house that is built underneath the Lemp Brewery, an abandoned building. You go down these like spiral staircases into the natural caves. Cool. It is the coolest. It's top 10 things to do in your life, let me tell you. I mean, you know, Taj Mahal. What's that? So.
Yeah, what's Taj Mahal?
Easily.
A spiral staircase.
Right. So
it's the home of the Golden Arches. That's the McDonald's country, right? That's what St. Louis is. Yes,
exactly, John. You've nailed it. So we talked about the tragedy in the fall. So from Adam, right, and his business, and how it goes into despair. So what on earth? What do you guys like? Did something drive them mad, or did they just go mad? You know, what happened? Was there a force that was in the mansion before them? Or is it something that comes after them? Right? What makes this mansion haunted? Because we're about to get into some of those stories. So, the Pointer family moves in. They're remodeling. What's that word? I'm been drinking. So, they're remodeling. One day, Richard Pointer, he's the head of the family, he is painting Billy's old room, right? And he gets super spooked, right? And this is what he says. I'm going to read what is quoted by what he says. He goes, I was painting the bedroom by myself, right? There was no one else in the house, and I felt someone behind me, watching me. I mean, it was a terrible feeling, the most burning sensation you could have. I got goosebumps just now thinking about it, because he's recounting, right? I turned around, and nothing was there. I started working again, and got the same feeling. So without looking behind me, I cleaned my paintbrushes and got the hell out of there. right?
That's the smart response.
Yeah.
Was he black? Because that's the black response.
God.
That's what I would have done.
John.
Like, peace.
So he was just like, I'm out. But I mean,
We're the first
kicked
one's
him.
dead in any horror movie. I'm just saying. That's the smart thing to do to get the heck out of there.
No, yeah. So actually, Pointer decides to hire a local artist to do some painting and restoring within the house. And while his name was Claude, as he was painting the ceiling. By the way, Pointer didn't tell him about these strange things going on, so he would hire people to come work and live and help in the mansion. He didn't tell them any of this like weird feelings he had, right? I know, Ron Beach. So while Claude was painting, right, he was painting the ceilings, and he too had a very similar experience. And this is what he said. You ready? He's like, as I was scaffolding, lying on my back and painting the ceiling in the dining room, when I got the feeling that someone was staring at me. I felt as though they were in the hallway just outside the room, but I couldn't see anything through the frosted glass doors. I went on working, and about an hour later, the feeling returned. It was weird. I felt like I had to get out of there right then, right? Claude, he left without cleaning up or washing his brushes or even locking the door behind him. He just got out of there, right? It spooked him so bad, he bolted. And he told Pointer, this place is crazy. You must have ghosts in there somewhere. So you have two people, right? Spooked out of their mind. Pointer's son, Dick, right, was once sleeping in the mansion, alone, except he had his dog with him. Oh, time to drink. Small drink break.
Cheers. Lemp almost as spooky as North Side.
You are very right.
The block gets it. Yep.
So North St. Louis, y'all. Okay, so Pointer's son's Dick, right? He's sleeping and his dog's with him in his bed, and his dog's name is Shadow. How cute. So he and Shadow actually they just wake up one day because they hear a very loud bang. Someone kicked his bedroom door open, right? He heard someone kick his bedroom door open. He got up, he went to look, and no one was around.
Creepy.
So that was his son's, what happened with his son. One night, when his son was closing the restaurant and with an employee, they heard 2 keys played on the piano in an empty mansion. Oh, look at you putting the haunted mansion behind you.
Because you said Shadow. Shadow was the name of Jack's dog. So
that makes sense.
I felt it was required.
So they heard. So that's actually a really famous thing. So there's a piano in the mansion, and because now that it's a bread and breakfast there, so you can go and stay there. And when they heard, every so often people say they hear someone playing the piano, which is pretty creepy. So this is one of the first accounts of that. So they heard someone play on the piano when no one was around, right? Dix has a sister. So the Pointer family, they have a daughter. Her name's Patty. And various Lemp Mansion employees and guests have experienced all these unexplained events on numerous occasions. This includes a candle on the mantle being just all of a sudden just lights up. Just out of nowhere, a candle just lights up. The drawer of a furniture piece that belongs to the Lemps just opens and closes once in a while without anyone handling it, apparently. Glasses move. Objects disappear and then reappear in different locations. And sometimes people hear little soft voices and they don't know where it's coming from. Or a clip and a clop in the house, right? Because of these old wooden floors. So they feel like they hear like phantom horses around on the streets. I don't know. Who knows, right? It could be a guy candle. These are all what people are saying. And who knows, like maybe they're just trying to create a sensation to people to talk about it. Or they're truly spooked, right? Truly something's happening. Mm-hmm. I have one more story to give you guys about the Lemp Mansion before I move on real quick to the exorcism story. So actually, the Pointers say that over the years, they actually lost a number of employees due to these crazy phenomenons that are happening. They're like, what is going on? And then, so remember, it's a restaurant, so they hire servers and chefs and all these people, and they're quitting all the time because all these weird things keep happening. One of the accounts that has been recorded was from one of the waitresses. Her name was Bonnie Strayhorn. And she explains this. She says, early one morning, I was going through the house, making sure everything was as it should be as the restaurant opened. Then I noticed a dark-haired man seated at a table in what was originally the Lemp family dining room. He was facing away from me, so all I could see was the outline of his shoulders and a head. I was surprised to see someone in the restaurant so early, but I asked him if he wanted a cup of coffee. He did not answer. When I looked away for a moment to flip the light on, I turned around and he had vanished. She quit her job that day.
Well,
Apparently.
I mean,
I
that's a
saw.
really that's a really good lead into one of the ghost stories I have.
So,
So, there was a caretaker, slash,
oh, here we go. I
what do you call
forgot.
them? Cleaner upper. Okay, I'm drinking. I'm pretty drunk. Not gonna lie. I only got her first name, not her last name, but her name was Melissa, and she was partially the caretaker of the mansion, which serves as a kind of bed and breakfast, so you can go stay there because it's a hotel and you can eat there, or and you can stay in the rooms. And she also was responsible for the cleaning staff. So she would take her 9-year-old son there to kind of just be there while she was working. And one day she's in one of the main bedrooms. Actually, the same room where I think it was Billy or one of the people, not sure who, shot himself. Let's see.
If it was the master bedroom, it would have been William.
Well, William shot
Billy
himself.
shot himself, remember, in his office.
Right. Okay, well, I'm not sure. What? It's where someone got in, and was dead. Uh, so for some reason, when she's there, although she gets the same activity that you were talking about, lights randomly turning on, the standard ghost fare that you would expect from a haunted place. Um, the more activity she sees is when her son's around. So when her son was there, who now refuses to go back, he'll never go back in the room. This is when he was 9 years old. He had put the keys of his mom down on a cabinet, um, so they could take them later, and then magically they just disappear. And they keep hearing the ringing of the keys, this ding ding ding, this ding ding ding. So they know it's in this room. They just can't figure out where it is. Where they end up finding the keys is behind the TV. And somehow they had been stuck there, even though she, Melissa, completely remembers seeing them by into the like nightstand where her son had put them, but somehow they were behind the TV. Uh, an additional story she tells, as being the caretaker of this bed and breakfast, which is very similar to what you were just talking about. As she was cleaning the house, and of course her son was there at the time as well, she notices a man in period clothing standing down the hallway. She, of course, thinks it's a guest, so she calls out to the man and starts walking towards her. The man starts walking towards her. But the interesting thing is, it's an old house, and we all know old houses, the way they're built. They creak, they make noise. You're walking up and down the stairs. It's very loud. There's no insulation. I mean, the house was built in the 1800s, right? End of 1800s, early 1900s. So it's not making any noise. But as this man in period clothing is walking towards her, there's literally sound of no footprints, zero footsteps. Like this man is walking, and she knows what it sounds like when people walk around. So that was one of the creepy stories I happened upon while doing some research for this.
There's honestly so many of them. People like to talk because it's a bed, like John just said, it's a bread and breakfast now. You can actually rent
Yep.
rooms there. They also have like events at the mansion's very much alive today, right? As in, like, it's a restaurant, it's a place you can go tour, it's, like I said, it's an event space, it's a bar, it's
Mm-hmm.
all those things in one. So the Limp Mansion's very much become a place where you could go and hang out and stay for the night, and it's become a place where people like to go. Like, I know ghost hunters have been there, but that was kind of a ridiculous episode. There's also people come up with really strange stories about the Limp Mansion that aren't true, but I hope I've given you the most accurate that I could find. But it's something you can go to today if you guys are very interested. And who knows, maybe you will see, like, I've just added a picture here. This is one of the most famous ones that when people took a picture at the Limp Mansion where they have claimed that there are ghosts there. And there's multiples of these, right? There's so many where there's like
Yeah.
weird aspirations, right? Or like a child in the corner, or someone seeing someone walk down the hallway and then they're not there anymore. It's really interesting how many people
Yeah.
say that, and who knows, like, maybe because they know going in they're thinking it's spooky, so they look for these types of stuff. It's hard to say, right?
I mean, completely logical. I completely agree. I mean, I am a avid Ghost follower. I like to watch it and see things, but I am always a skeptic. And I was very skeptical when I read some of these stories, but some of them are just weird. So I have two more for you as we go through some of these
Well,
interesting stories. So apparently there are 9 spirits in this that inhabit this amazing mansion. One of them is called the Monkey Boy. Apparently, in one location, they see this monkey type child who peers through a glass. His name is I forget exactly who his name is. Doesn't matter. But there's a monkey boy. There's also a story about a boy who. So you were saying it turned into a boarding house, correct?
for a moment,
So
yeah.
there's this little boy named Zeke, who loves the third floor. I don't know if this is where he was living at the time, but for some reason he hangs out in the third floor. And he is a ghost that only responds to children. So he really only wants to come out and play with kids when he comes out. And if there's a kid present, multiple people have said they hear a tapping, a tap, tap, tap on the glass of windows on the third floor, which is Zeke basically saying, "Hey, come play with me, come hang out." My last story about Zeke, and then we can head over to The Exorcist. By the way, warning: all these stories are very scary, so if you don't want to sleep tonight, not my problem. You join this stream. So this is the story from Betsy Burnett. She is a historian, and she was invited to go tell camera crews. I think Fox was doing a story when the women in white appeared, and so they invited a historian to come talk about um, the mansion, just like what we're doing today. So one of the things she had heard was if you bring a teddy bear, uh, that Zeke might come and play with it, and she wanted to kind of prove this story wrong because she's a historian, just like you, Janelle.
Oh.
She wants to preserve history. So she comes to do this interview and talk about all of the history of the mansion, and she puts this teddy bear on the stairs because it said Zeke wants to play with a teddy bear. And after she's done the interview and people are kind of milling about, she looks upstairs to where she had placed this little teddy bear. And if by coincidence or if by just some weird thing, the teddy bear begins to float about 2.5 feet
God.
in the air, as if a little child was holding the teddy bear and holding it up and playing with it. And this little teddy bear, as some of the camera crew had seen, was literally floating in the air like a child was holding it. And we assume that was Zeke. At least she assumes, and the crew there assumes that was Zeke playing with the teddy bear.
Crazy.
So those are some crazy stories,
There's a
the
lot
most
of them.
interesting ones
Yeah.
that I heard about the mansion. But we did have some pictures
I know
of.
I didn't share them because I'm the worst. I was drinking.
Oh, doesn't even matter.
But
No,
I
no, no.
have the one. So I do have
I
the
mean,
one. I do know there's I do recommend researching the ones about especially with Monkey Boy and the child. You do
mhm.
find some really interesting pictures where people are just hanging out there, having a party, having a good time, and all of a sudden there's a child in the corner. It's kind of weird. I don't know if they put it there themselves or it
Yeah,
really is there, right? So because of course technology today, but people do have evidence, right, of these things. So who knows
yeah. Look it up.
ultimately?
Two of the craziest pictures I've seen when I was doing research for this. One was of the second floor looking down to the first floor from the stairway there, and it's just a regular picture, and there's a bunch of people around, and there's this little boy that is in the banisters kind of just
Moo.
looking through the banisters, and you see the face, which is really weird.
It's
The
wild.
second, yeah, it is kind of wild. The second picture is of the white woman, which is a woman they say
Dressed in
haunts the
white.
mansion, and it could be one of the wives of
Could be
one
Julia.
of the, yeah, it could be Julia. And this woman is dressed in periodic clothing as she tours and walks around the mansion, and it's said that you can see her spirit sometimes in rare occasions around, and it is really weird to see this woman that they took a picture of. They were taking a picture of guests who are attending a murder mystery party in the mansion, and you see two people standing in this hallway. One man, one woman. One woman dressed all in white, both in very period clothing. Older people, in their 50s, 60s, maybe older, looking at each other, but very in a ghosty type of see-through format. And again, all of these could have they're pictures, so anything can be created in Photoshop these days. But honestly, even me looking at them, like, that's weird. I don't know what to say about that. Clearly, these people might be part of the show, but the person who posted the picture said she was the one who took the picture. She was actually part of the show, and none of these two people were part of the show, and they weren't part of the audience, and she has no clue why they're in this picture. So those are some of the ghost stories I learned of Lit Mansion. So go look it up, guys. It's fun.
It's good stuff. I love it. It's one of my favorite ones. So I hope you guys like the story of the Limp Mansion. We actually are now going to move on because it's a double feature today. I usually stick to one topic because there's so much you could say about one topic, right? The Limp Mansion could have been a whole entire episode, but I thought it'd be nice to kind of make it like a St. Louis horror attraction episode. So I want to talk about the exorcism of 1949. Oh, I like that you changed that. That's really cool. So we are going to move on to our next story of the night. As you can tell, I changed my background.
And everyone take a drink before we move on.
Oh yes,
everyone,
it's always important
to
to refresh, right? To have to stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
All right. So the incident, right, that's going to inspire the 1971 novel and the 1973 film The Exorcist took place in 1949 and centered around a teenage boy who has never been formally identified, by the way. So a lot of the story I'm about to say has not been, as I would say, like, there's no real evidence fully, right? There is some. I'll show you some evidence, right, that's going to be surrounded, but a lot of it is hearsay, as it's a story, right? A lot of this comes from a diary that was kept by a priest named Raymond Bishop, and also there's some newspapers that are going to be printed, right? Especially in Maryland, where's the boy's originally from, but things go down in St. Louis, so it is in two places. So there is some things, right, that we can we can account for this story, but a lot of it's just going to be kind of, as like I said, a story. So you take it with a grain of salt, but I'm going to tell you how I've read it, the research that I found. I'm not going to sit here and say it's fact, but this is how it's recounted, and this is what's going to inspire, the classic Exorcist film that's going to win 2 Oscars, right? And that we still watch to this day, and is still super creepy today, right? So, okay, the story is going to be about a 14-year-old boy. He lived in a city right outside of Washington, D.C., so he lived right outside, he was in a town in Maryland, who came to visit a family member in St. Louis. We're going to call him Roland, because the Catholic Church actually gave him the pseudonym Roland Doe. We don't really know his real name. Some people call him Robbie, because in the book, right, his name was Robbie in the Exorcist book, but we're going to call him Roland, because that's how he's really officially known in more of the history aspect, right? So this is his pseudonym, Roland Doe. Roland and his family go to St. Louis. They're going to visit Roland's aunt, who he loves very much. His aunt, though, was a woman who was very interested in spiritualism and the occult. And she, as the story goes, she introduces Roland to the Ouija board. Ooh, right? I should have a picture of the Ouija board up here.
No, you don't even need to. Don't mess with the Ouija board.
I will never touch. I
don't even believe in it, but yeah. I'm freaked out enough.
I will never have a Ouija board in my house.
Ouija board.
I don't even believe in it, but I will never have a Ouija board in my house. I am not inviting anything. So she teaches him, apparently, right, how to use and play with the Ouija board. When she passes away, right, so she eventually, I guess a year or 2 later, she passes away, and Roland is distraught, right? He loved her. It was his favorite aunt. In his grief, he attempts to contact her with what? A Ouija board, right? As the story goes. After he does this, after this occurrence, in his home, right, he's back in Maryland, strange things start to happen. super concerned, his parents decide to take him to a medical doctor. They take him to a psychiatrist, and they take him to a psychiatrist, and what is it? There's two of them.
Psychologist?
Psychologist. Thank you, dyslexia. So they take him to all these medical doctors, right? I should have said that. I have a master's. And so they're just trying to figure out what's wrong with him. Like, what's going on? What are all these weird things happening? It's so strange that the family actually decides to take him to the local Lutheran minister, right? Who's Reverend Luther Schultz, who agrees to observe Roland during these, like, episodic states, right? So during these weird occurrences. Like, let me see what's going on. Schultz witnesses, right, these really crazy things that he cannot explain. What is said, that he says that he saw the bed's boy shaking. Oh, thank you for the bits. You're so sweet. I saw, like, the bed shaking, that he saw dishes flying throughout the air. He saw furniture moving on its own accord. And because of this, he's like, what is going on? Maybe the house is haunted. Maybe something weird's in the house. So he decides to take Roland, right, to stay with him at his place. But the bizarre things are still happening, even at his house. He's at a loss. He doesn't know what's up. So he suggests to the family, to Roland's parents, that they go that they go to the Catholic Church, right, for help. Go to them for help. The family approaches the local Catholic parish, St. James. They go and they talk to the church assistant pastor, whose name, there's a lot of names. There's actually a lot of people involved. I'm not going to tell you everybody, but I'll tell you a few of them in this story. There's like 38 people involved, which is like, wait, what? 38 people? How is this not? It's
a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. So Reverend E. Albert Hughes. Hughes is actually someone who is very important. There's actually evidence of what happens to him. So, as the church assistant pastor Hughes, he tells the family, so he prays for the family, right? He prays with them, and then he offers them holy water, and he gives them some blessed candles, and he's like, how about use these in the homes when things start to get weird, right? When the events happen, use the holy water, light these candles, right? Roland's mother takes these home with her, and while she's attempting to use these blessed items as instructed, weird shit goes on, right? The holy water flies across the room one evening, and it smashes, just spills everywhere. The candles, like, they either blow out on their own or they just flame up, right? You know the effect. So she'll light this candle, it'll just go out. Is there a breeze? What's going on? Or it's out of nowhere flames. So that's a little weird, right? So super dangerous. One source indicates that Hughes actually came to visit the home. And the source claims that Hughes, when he was there, he was so shaken by the visit that he reached out to the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., who's Patrick O'Boyle. So there's actually evidence, though. There's solid evidence that Hughes has a mental breakdown. That's actually factual. And so it's like, what happened to him? Why did he have a mental breakdown? Did he see something that shook him to his core, right? That's possible. So that's a fact. I'll try to tell you when I know it's a fact, so I tried to do my best to do as much research in a short amount of time for you guys. This is only partially accurate, right? I can't promise you 100% history. But, so he goes to the Archbishop of Washington. At this time, Rollins undergoes psychological and physical testing over at Georgetown University Hospital. The test failed. Nothing comes up, right? He doesn't come up with any ailments. No one can figure out what's wrong with him. No mental illnesses or any sort of disease, right? So the mom and the family, they don't know what to do. He was just sent home. So distraught, she decides, well, you know what? This all happened after the death of the aunt, right? And so she goes, let's go back to St. Louis. Maybe this is the root of where it all started. I don't know why someone would think to do that, but that's okay.
Yeah, no one wants to go back to St. Louis.
Who goes back to St. Louis?
Place. Disgusting.
No, you've never even been there. It's beautiful.
Never been there. It's probably amazing.
So, I know. So they go back, right? So question for you. When they moved to St. Louis, right, to go stay with other family, because unfortunately the aunt has passed, they go stay with cousins and stuff, did you think the bizarre effects came with them?
I'm gonna say if it was a poltergeist that was haunting a child, then yes, of course it did.
So yes, of course, the bizarre occurrences, of course, follow them there, right? So while they're there, it's like March 9th, right? So it's the beginning of the year, 1949. then this gentleman named Raymond Bishop. And Raymond Bishop, like if you I mentioned him earlier, is that he actually keeps a diary. So this
Was
apparently...
Raymond Bishop a bishop?
Yes, Raymond Bishop is a bishop. So Raymond Bishop,
on the
right?
Ridiculous.
No, he's a priest. So he's a priest. So he actually keeps a diary of all of this accounts. So I have some really interesting passages from his diary that I'm going to read to you, but not yet. So they meet. So while they're there, they meet Raymond Bishop, and he's a Jesuit teacher at SLU. So at St. Louis University, just like I talked about with the Lemp Mansion, with Billy going to SLU. So SLU's they have a Department of Education. He teaches, he's a Jesuit teacher, right? And he goes to visit the family because one of Roland's cousins is a university student, and he tells Bishop about his cousin, right? And all these weird events that are going on. So Raymond decides to go and check it out. He's a young priest at the time, and he actually goes on the advice of his fellow faculty members. They're like, yeah, you should go see what's going on. Go check this out. And he meets Roland. So according to Bishop's diary, though, when he meets Roland, the bed starts to shake, right? He goes and meets him. And Roland is bedridden, right? Because he can't, he's just a mess. The bed starts to shake. And so what Raymond, right, so Bishop does is that he sprinkles some holy water. He does the sign of the cross. And all of a sudden the bed stops shaking. Interesting. So he returns to SLU. Bishop decides to sought out a pastor named William Bodern. And Bodern's a really impressive guy. He's older, right? Because remember, Bishop's a young gentleman. Bodern's like a World War II veteran. He has extensive teaching, and he's been a pastor. He has a lot of pastoral experience. So he goes to visit Roland a couple of days later, right? Because he hears Bishop's story, and he's like, I gotta go check what's going on. And during the visit, of course, crazy shit goes down, right? He acknowledges all this. He sees all this stuff. Roland has suffered these crazy scratches, right, in the shape of a cross on his body, and objects are flying around the room. And like, again, holy water, thrown, broken, splattered, right? So these events, they continue, and they're only getting worse. So they're just getting worse. So Bodern and Bishop, who are the two main guys on the case, right? They decide to seek permission, because you have to get permission from the Catholic, high above, to do the rite of exorcism.
The Vatican has to.
They have to
say,
approve
hey,
this stuff.
It's cool that clearly
any
there's a
Exorcist movie, it has to be approved, right?
Gotta be approved.
So they're the ones. So by the way, I actually have. So this is Bishop Raymond. Like I said, here's the picture. And then I have the house where Raymond is staying, right, in St. Louis. So this is a house you can go to today. I believe this is the one in St. Louis. I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm not 100% sure. I just know this is the famous house you can go visit, right? This is known as the Exorcist house.
Yeah, you can visit it. You could also stay there, like if you get the right contact.
Are you telling lies? Yeah, like, isn't it an Airbnb?
I wish I was telling lies. I've seen like low budget YouTube paranormal channels stay at this house.
Yes, so this is actually another big one for like ghost hunters and all that. And they go to this house, right? So it's like known as the Exorcist house. So they go to the higher ups. They ask to perform the right exorcism, and they actually get the permission, right? So they get permission. So they must have had a lot of good evidence. Oh, drink time. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Always need the reminder. So according to Bishop's diary, after the exorcism is authorized, right, he and Bodern, they are the ones that are going to lead the exorcist. They visit Roland on a nightly basis, right? They go to him every night. They go throughout the rest of March and into the beginning of April. Other Jesuits and scholars, they actually are rotating, actually. They bring other Jesuits and scholars with them. So like I said, there's like 38 people who have witnessed this whole ordeal, right? It's crazy. So they're helping assist. They're either a driver, and they're coming in and helping pin down Roland. I don't know if I have it in my notes, but I don't want to jump ahead if not. So there's actually a case apparently where Roland, he's really strong as well. Like his strength he's just all of a sudden extremely strong, right? And that's another thing. Like if you saw the movie or read the book, remember she was extremely strong out of nowhere. He actually he hit someone so hard they get like 100 stitches. It's like what? It's crazy. So don't go hang out with Roland, y'all. Don't do it. So other Jesuits. So as the priest prayed, Roland's reaction became extreme. Like as they're praying, he just becomes exuberant. And so in his diary, so this is an excerpt from the diary I wanted to read you guys, because it's from the words of Bishop, right, who's apparently there witnessing this whole situation. He goes, the prayers of the exorcism were continued, and so Roland, was seized violently as he began to struggle with his pillow and the bed clothing. The arms, legs, and head of R had to be held by 3 men. The contortions revealed physical strength beyond natural power. Or maybe this is where he's going to tell that story. R spit at the faces of those who held him and at those who prayed over him. He spit at the relics and at the priest's hand. He withered under the sprinkling of holy water. He fought and screamed in a diabolical, high-pitched voice. That's a very interesting thing to witness. I think it was pretty... You just get so spooked. Like,
Yeah,
if you
like
saw that, like, so...
Just checking if
I don't know why Bishop would lie, but, it's something he saw. It's what he witnessed. So during one of the evening sessions, Bishop reported that a picture of the devil actually appeared on the boy's leg as well. On another evening, the word hell manifested on his chest. The boy punched one of the men in the face, breaking his nose. Another thing that happened. He also apparently spoke in tongues. And he flat out resisted them, right? He struggled all the time, right? Crazy. So those are all definitely big signs, right, that we think of when we're saying you're possessed. So what they decide to do, they take him out of this house, right? They're like, we need to move him. We need to bring him to a facility that we can really monitor him. So they remove him from this house, and they actually take him to a hospital. And it's a hospital. It's connected to this department. So on Easter, it's like Easter of April 1949. They take him to what's called Alexander Brothers Hospital. Bodern continues the rite of exorcism, right? Actually, they said, this is interesting, sorry, I don't want to forget this one. When they take him to this hospital, I guess they pulled over on the side of the road. I don't know what they do, but there's a story about how Roland actually tries to jump off a cliff into the Mississippi River, and one of them had to tackle him. I don't know what that was about. That was a really...
He want to go for a swim.
He was going to go for a swim, right? He's like, peace out, I'm going for a dip.
It was, it gets
it's April in St. Louis, it's not hot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's humid. It's very humid. I just want to go for a swim in the lake.
So that was a really interesting story. It's like, I don't get how he could have just got to a cliff and tried to jump into the river during transit. I don't know. But it's a little tidbit. I've read that randomly. I don't know what's true and what's not. So they take him to Alexander's Brothers. They take him to this hospital. I have a picture of it here. It actually does not stand anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. But they tore it down, and I think there's actually... Now you can have apartments there or something. I can't remember.
The hospital's freaking creepy.
It's creepy. You actually see how big it is.
Creepy picture.
Oh, let me expand it. Let me make it bigger so you guys can see it. Okay, so this is actually it's a really creepy looking hospital, right? All old school hospitals look creepy. Who's kidding who? So what they do, they continue. So right, Bodern's continuing the rite of exorcism. He's placing holy items on the boy's body and around his neck. According to Bishop's diary, like I said, it's all from Bishop's account. The exorcist then demanded to know, right, the name of the demon that was possessing Roland, and the Jesuits demanded the demon to leave the boy alone. Right here, they start demanding things. I don't know what they were doing for all the other. I don't know what they were doing the other days though. They've been literally visiting this kid every night all through March. Why all of a sudden, I don't know. So now they're like, who are you? Get out of this boy, right? And I like this. I have to read this little excerpt. The fit continues. So of course Roland, he's just in a frenzy, right? According to Bishop, the demon mocked Bodern, right? Saying this is really weird. I might butcher this. He goes, he has to say one more word, one little word. I mean, one big word. He'll never say it. I'm always in him. I may not have much power always, but I am in him. He will never say that word. What word? What are we talking about? What does that mean? That's a really interesting phrase, right? So
the word of God.
I don't know. I like it. Bazinga. That's the word. Pazuzu. I like it.
Pazuzu.
That's a good word too.
Pazuzu.
That's Pazuzu, right? Who knows what this word is, right? So this is where things get... So this is like the final showdown. Not to do spoiler words, but we're in the final showdown, right? So Bodern and the priest assisting him, they persisted, right? They're like, tell me your name. Leave the boy, right? So shortly before midnight, the priest heard a different male voice come from Roland, right? And the bishop's diary noted, right? Satan, Satan, I am Saint Michael. I command you, Satan, and the other spirits to leave the body. The name of Dominius immediately. Now, now, now. Moments later, Roland wakes up. The boy tells the priest he's gone, telling them that he had a dream that Saint Michael, the archangel, had battled the devil and the demons to free him.
It's freaking weird. It's weird.
So there's actually in the hospital, there are people who also were in, there's other people in the hospital, right? They claim, there's accounts that they heard a loud noise, like a loud pop noise, right? Like a gunshot come from where Roland was staying in the wing he was in. So there's other accounts that night, which is kind of interesting. Like, what's that loud gunshot noise? That's
So
crazy.
I have 5 quick stories.
Hold on, I'm not done though. Let me finish. We're almost done. I do want to hear your stories because they're interesting. So the Archdiocese of St. Louis received a formal report, of course, on the exorcism, closing the matter formally. It's closed. Roland's saved. He lives. St. Michael came to save him, right? The demons are gone.
It's a happy ending.
It's a happy ending. So they actually, neither the Archdiocese of Missouri Province of Society of Jesus spoke publicly about the fence. They do this, of course, like I said, we call him Roland. We don't know his real name. They do this to protect him, to protect his identity. In August, though, of 1949, so a couple of months later, Schultz, right, one of the other priests who first went to his house and saw all these weird shit, right, and the one who's like, you gotta go to the Catholics. He spoke about the events in public, actually, and several news outlets. So I actually have something here I really want to show you guys. So he spoke to several news outlets, and the story is published throughout newspapers in Washington, D.C. And you can look these up. There's a few of them you can read today. So this is one of them. Priest Freeze, Mount Rainier boy. He's actually apparently he's not from Mount Rainier. He's from like a different city in Maryland. But there's all this like newspaper evidence that this story was around. People knew about it. They knew something had gone down, right? Because those that were involved couldn't contain it, right? They had to share it. So again, like I said, Washington Post, they wrote a few stories on it. There's also a paper on it in the Catholic Review. There's an article that came out that William Peter Blately, who's going to write the Exorcist book, he's the one who went to Georgetown University, and he bases his novel off this whole event, which then the movie will come about. He of course changes a lot of key factors in the book. He names the boy Robbie, and then of course the film does its own type of thing as well. It's a girl and where it takes place. And then the film, which goes on to earn 2 Oscars and becomes one of the highest grossing films of all time. And then in 1993, there's actually a book called Possessed, The True Story of an Exorcism by Thomas B. Allen. And he's the one that, he tries to really research this story that I just told you. And he was the one who's trying to, talk about what's real and what's not real and breaks it down. But they come to a consensus, right? So today they're trying to explain what happened. Of course, they're the ones that are going to say that Roland, you can call him either one, he's known by both names, he was a deeply disturbed boy, right? They're trying to say that nothing supernatural about him, he was just mentally ill, and that's because why. So, of course, Catholic priests would just claim that it was demonic instead of it being actually, and there's that battle, right, between science and religion that way. I think that's really old school, but so that's the story of the original Exorcism, and I hope you enjoyed that one. Again, it's not as I wanted to share it because, of course, we can talk about that hospital very much existed. These people, these priests, and these they all existed. So it's what happened, and why do we know him as Roland Doe? This is a pseudonym by the Catholic Church. So it's a really interesting thing. And then you have people who start coming out and talking about it. We know that, Hughes, who was thinking about doing an exorcism, he had a mental breakdown and couldn't do anything, right? And he had to pass him, and then they moved to St. Louis. It's just, who knows, ultimately, what happened.
So let me tell you a little bit about, there's 5 different, really crazy stories around the filming of The Exorcist, although there's more about it. But the cast members and the director, William Friedkin, literally says the whole production was cursed. Okay? So when they originally went to go shoot the movie, shooting was delayed after the set caught fire, destroying what was supposed to be McNeil's home. They blamed the incident on a pigeon, a winged creature with horns and talons, although it was seems to turn out it was a pigeon. It found its way into the circuit box, which caused the fire. So, just a normal occurrence, Everyone was okay. No one got harmed. But the crazy thing is, after this fire, which hit the set, there was actually one location in that set that wasn't harmed, and that was Reagan's room. The main protagonist, the little girl in the story, the entire room was not harmed by the fire. No smoke damage, no fire damage. Everything else had fire damage. It was burned. This was the one place that wasn't burned. And the crazy part was, it wasn't even the furthest thing away from the fire. So that was one of those interesting coincidences that happened with the film. Number 2, during filming, the actress Ellen Burstyn, who played Reagan's mother, she was actually injured when the possessed Reagan throws her to the ground. The take was actually used for the film, and when she screams in the film, if you remember, this is this blood-curdling scream. It's actually completely genuine. In fact, that injury has persisted in her life, and it still hurts her to today. And it's not like they weren't following like regular, film practice rules. It's just she got pushed and, Anyway, so number 3.
Curse script, yeah.
It's just these weird occurrences. I'm not saying that the cast was cursed or any way, but there's a lot of weird things that happened. So The Exorcist had a lot of deaths after the film was out and actually during the film. So actor Jack McGoran and Valisky Maloris, I had to look these up. They both died while the film was in post-production.
Oh yeah.
The crazy thing that makes their deaths kind of strange is that their characters died in the film as well. So some of the people who died in the film died outside of the film. Outside of their deaths, there are some other deaths that occurred during the filming of The Exorcist, which included Linda Blair's grandfather and Max von Sydow's brother, who died on Max's first day of shooting. Again, coincidence, but still just kind of weird. Also, while filming, the son of Jason Miller, who played the father of Damien Karras, was nearly killed in a motorcycle accident where a motorcycle hit him. Again,
A lot of
I'm
weird
not
stuff
saying
happened.
this proves anything, it's just the weird occurrences. The last 2 weird occurrences. While filming one of the possession scenes, Linda was literally thrown out of the bed when a piece of the rigging broke.
Ooh.
Linda was the little girl in the film. It caused her to injure her back.
Yeah.
Additionally, after the film's release, Linda received so many death threats that the studio had to literally hire bodyguards to escort her from place to place for 6 months because all of the religious conservatives were freaking out about this film, thinking it was some way related to the devil. And although I think that's crazy, with all the crazy happenstances of this film, and the fact that everyone thought this film was cursed, then maybe they're not so crazy. And to round out our top 5 crazy things that happened with The Exorcist, in 1987, the actress Mercedes McCambridge, who played the demonic voice of Pazuzu, which was the name of the demonic voice that inhabited the child,
Yeah.
she was actually a victim of a horrific tragedy when her son was murdered. And her son's wife and the children were all killed before the son took his own knife.
No. There's a lot
So there's
of
a lot of,
weird, it's
weird
strange,
things.
strange incidences, right?
Yeah, and look, I'm not looking at every single film with this eye of craziness. You should look up The Passion of the Christ. There's a lot of crazy things that happen with that film too, in the paranormal world. But that's the top 5 crazy things that happened with the Exorcist film, and I'll let our amazing Pina Colada end the stream today after my crazy sideshow of information.
Oh, thank you, John. I always love your information, and thank you for doing your own independent research, right, to contribute to the story. I love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream today. I hope you learned something new or helped you just kind of relive a story that you maybe already knew, like the family at Lemp Mansion and the original exorcism, right? Of 1949. There's other stories of exorcisms, but the 1949 St. Louis exorcism that's going to that inspires such a cult classic. So this is going to be, again, like I said, it's the first of our spooky series. We're going to do another one in 2 weeks on October 16th. We'll talk about the Salem witch trials, and then we're actually going to do one also on October 30th where we're talking about Mary Shelley and Frankenstein, because it's actually National Frankenstein Day on the last Friday of every month. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. Aw, thank you for gifting, Odin. You're so sweet. So I'm really excited, right? So to do this series and kick back into talking about history and sharing it with you guys. So I hope you guys very much enjoyed this. I actually kept it in a decent amount of time, only an hour and 15. Sorry for the little technical issues earlier today. The music didn't want to play. I'm like, what happened? And my eyes look so creepy. Maybe because I did the green screen now.
I love it. I love it.
I look kind of possessed with this like weird glitteriness in my eyes. I'm not sure. So again, thank you. So again, we're gonna try to do these as more as possible because I do love them, and I hope you very much enjoy the stories, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. I'll be gaming this Monday, so I'll be doing that, starting with some horror games for the rest of the month. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks, you guys. Bye. Follow if you want to, more.
Oh, subscribe,
subscribe, all that,
all those
promoting myself is just a weird concept. I can't do it. Alright, you guys, good night. Thank you again.
And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, happy
week,
October,
or
right?
whenever we see you. Yeah.
Bye.